Good morning and welcome to INC and to our probably the first or second open house ever. My name is Tzyy-Ping Jung. Most of the people cannot pronounce my name or spell out, so most people call me TP. And today I'm going to show you some of the stuff we have been doing in the past 25 years. And this sort of kind of sad. We're trying to condense 25 years of research into 15 minutes talk. I wish we can do that the other way around. So you can see, this is I'm actually representing probably over 100 people here. And there's a lot of studies have been done by SCCN and also my colleagues in Taiwan and China. You can see multiple titles. And because I'm affiliated with UCSD and also National Geographic University in Taiwan and China. This is one of many universities I'm associated with. So I like these old pictures of SCCN, which is shown on the left, because a lot of toolboxes were developed by those people, even though they have left our lab. And John already mentioned some of them. So I want to acknowledge some of them. For instance, Luca and Sean are still actually going to do demos today. And also Zeynep, who developed NFT, is still here. And Arnold is actually working with us very closely. He's actually working part-time at INC. On the left, a lot of engineers and also educators at National Geographic University in Taiwan. Okay. So first of all, I want to tell you why I'm studying real-world neuroscience. I don't know how many of you actually are neuroscientists in the audience. You can raise your hand. Yeah, okay. Not many, but I think you should be very proud of yourself because in the past 2 decades, and neuroscience research has led to foundational insights into how the human sense, perceive, and interact with external world and other human beings. However, unfortunately, nearly all of the research were conducted in the well-controlled laboratory environment. So it has been argued that our brain works might be differently in the real-world environment versus in the laboratory situations. So, it remains unclear to me and to many of people in the field of neuroscience and neuroengineering how well the current knowledge of the human brain functions translates into real-world complex environments. In 2009, SCCN, led by Scott McKay, our director, actually proposed a revolutionary fields of neuroscience research and called mobile brain body images, or MOBI, trying to see how people their brain functions in a naturalistic environment. So today you're going to see some of the demos, and probably at noon or in the afternoon. So that's our group starting working on real-world neuroscience and brain-computer interfaces. I want to mention that the goals of real-world neuroscience and brain-computer interfaces research are threefold at least. First is to advance basic neuroscience research in real-world environment. Second is to enhance human performance and resilience to physical and mental stress. For instance, sleep deprivations or anxiety disorders, and for instance, I have a problem with agoraphobia. So I can pretty sure that when I make decisions, on the 3,000 feet versus on the ground will be different. And the third thing is trying to improve prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of neurological and psychiatric diseases. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a big program, and this is a diagram showing all of the parts we have been working on. On the left is mainly the engineering aspect. And we have developed sensors, we have developed acquisition systems, and to measure neural, physiological, or even human behavior in real environments. Okay. The second part is advanced computational approaches. Jung already mentioned some of the work, or some of the software toolboxes we have developed and disseminated. On the right, actually, is neuroscience research. I'm particularly interested how the real life stress, for instance, or mentioned, sleep quality, stress, anxiety, will impact, your, for instance, problem solving, emotions, sustained attentions, and decision making. Okay. At the buttons, we're talking about translational research. So basically, we are trying to leverage the instrumentation, the sensors, the systems we develop, including cloud computing, and trying to, as I already mentioned, enhance human performance, and also trying to enhance the resilience of the humans to the physical and mental stress. On the right, we're talking about clinical applications. So I'm going to go through those building blocks very quickly, because we're going to have about 1 hour of demonstrations later on. Okay. Sorry, wrong side. Okay, so those are the sensors my colleagues and I have developed, including those conductive rubber sensors for the non-heavy sides on the forehead or behind the ears, and also the metals, spring-loaded metals electrodes developed at the National Jiao Tong University. And also this is actually developed by Mike Chi, Kurt's former students at UCSD. This is like spiders, sensors and coated with conductive paste. So then when you can get really good contact, and when you push against your hair and separate the hairs automatically and get good contact with your skin, so you can collect data. And we're not only develop those sensors as well as published papers, but also trying to disseminate it or commercialize it. So for instance, those systems came out from the work developed at INC and collaborating universities. So this is Quick 20 or Quick 30, and this is MIDO systems. And more recently, we're trying to push the envelope of this neurotechnology. So in this case, we actually developed the totally wearable and portable systems with 2 cameras tracking your eye movement in the real space and EEG activity using any kind of EEG sensors and systems. For instance, this is what subject sees. This is the videos from the eye camera, and this is fed into the deep learning algorithms trying to automatically identify the content and objects subject seeing. This is online recursive ICA and embed in the REST toolbox and trying to separate out different sources from the EEG recording, which are mainly the mixtures of all the signals or the activity taking place or aroused from different parts of brain. And this is cardiac signals and motion captures. So actually, this is more details about the systems. Later on, we actually push again the technologies to the virtual reality environment. So for instance, this is from the HTC Vive goggles. We put into the eye trackers into the goggles so then we can see the gaze information of the subject. We can also put IMUs attached to subject's bodies and to track their movement, limbs and trunk movement, as well as using the armband or wristband trying to record the physiological data. I'm going to show you a short video in case you cannot stay for the live demo. So this is virtual reality escape room. So you can see this guard view on the top, and this is our subject walking into the rooms. He's trying to find clues and the keys to get out. So this is first-person view from the goggle. Okay, this is experimental views. You can see monitor subject. And we have in-game assessment trying to understand subject's emotions, flows, engagement. And we have a virtual surveillance camera. So this is the subject head. And you cannot see the body, unfortunately. And we can see from different angles, and from ceilings, or from even the tables, and what subject is doing. And then we can record simultaneous EEG, and using pretty much any kind of EEG systems on the market. And as I already mentioned, that we can record their physiological data as well, and eye activity. I probably didn't mention that all the multiple data streams are totally synchronized. And then we can also use deep learning trying to find out the cognitively meaningful events. So then we can time lock all the activities to the event. So you can see all kinds of biomedical signals. And this is what subject's gaze. And he's obviously trying to look at the clues, which will lead to the keys. You can see, okay, that's bookshelf, and pick it up, and you can see the gaze. So whenever you see, for instance, gaze locked to the target versus the non-target, your brain activity, your GSR or your HRV will show us that this is very meaningful. This is what you're looking for. I'm going to skip the rest of it. This is actually the 3D motion capture. I'm going to skip most of them because otherwise, and the people at the back cannot be our subject anymore. Okay. So this is actually just one building blocks and the computational approaches. I'm going to show you what is independent component analysis. Okay. This is a short video recorded live in the car. 4 people are talking at the same time. Okay. In fact, we can separate out each voice automatically, totally blindly. Now, this is a microphone, number 4.
3 can work on a cell phone, in a Bluetooth headset, or even in a car kit.
So,
Why force your clients to put up with a noise?
they are talking. You can see that.
You have to mute your cell phone in order to join a conference call. Do you enjoy starting the call with an apology for the background noise?
I'm going to skip the rest of those video. So you can see this is the technology. Really, have a breakthroughs or impacts on the biomedical signal processing because we can separate out the source activity as opposed to trying to analyze the data from the scalp or the data from the heart because you have actually multiple chambers. You can separate it out now. Okay. In fact, again, we not only develop, publish, and also we commercialize it. And that technology, I co-founded a company called Softmax in '98. This is another spin-off from INC, and got acquired by Qualcomm in 2007. My co-founder now is the president of Qualcomm in Korea. So he told me that currently, as of today, over 800 million phones already implemented our technology. So I'm pretty sure you have the cell phone with our technology. Because each cell phone actually has about 3 microphones, not only 1. And so we can separate out your voice from the ambient noise and other people talking. So go back to the neuroscience and biomedical signal processing. This is a toolbox for EEG Lab developed by Arnold and Scott. Has been downloaded by over 250,000 in the past 15 years. And this is another toolbox from SCCN and by Zenet. And this is basically trying to look at where those signals coming from the brain and from the scalp back. And this is brain-computer interface toolbox and developed by Christian Cote. And this is developed by Tim Molland, called Source Information Flow Toolbox. Basically trying to look at interactions among different sources, not only the activities from each individual locations or the regions. I have to speed up. Oh, sorry. So again, I mentioned earlier that we are trying to leverage all the computational approaches and instrumentation with it. Let me see, this one. Oh, movie doesn't play. But anyway, so yeah, here. So this is actually the driving simulations we built at the National Geographic University in Taiwan. So this is a real car mounted on a 6-degree of motion platform. So as I said, we're trying to study your brain at work in a real-world environment, but I cannot just put drowsy subject or our drivers on the road. So we spent $1 million trying to build this thing. Then we can look at their activities with all the visual and all the motion cues, how that will affect their brain activity. So I'm going to speed up really quickly. So this is the brain activities, mainly coming from the Broman areas 18 and 19 on the back of your head. And this is equivalent dipole locations of the sources across different subjects. This is the view graph showing the EEG power spectrum changes when you have a really good performance, you respond to the event really quickly, versus you have a very slow response when you get drowsy. So you can see overall the low frequency power increase when you have a really long reaction time. And very likely it will lead to the catastrophic incident. And this is brain connectivity, source level information flows. When you have motions, you can turn on the motions, the car is moving, versus when you don't have the motion, you will turn it off. Because we want to compare different conditions to show why or how our knowledge from the laboratory research can be translated into the real world. In fact, you can see that when you have motions, the major hub of those brain networks actually from the posterior cingulate cortex. And when you turn it off, you have sensory deprived situations. The major hub actually is move forward to the mid-cingulate cortex. So your brain actually works differently in the real world environment versus in the laboratory setting. I'm going to skip this one. This is actually education. We're actually trying to study how our students, college students, acquire physics concepts. I'm going to skip this part. So basically, eye gaze information tells us the longer you stare at the critical point, and you get more chance to get the questions answered correctly. And this is the EEG activity. The fifth fixation, you can see the differences here is significant after you want to respond correctly versus incorrectly. So this is some of the translational neuroscience. So we actually built the drowsiness detection and mitigation systems on the cell phone. So we can record data from your brain to the cell phone. Then we can detect if you feel drowsiness and to give alarm feedback if you are. And this is actually trying to study emotions. So basically the brain and physiological responses of the emotion responses to the either multimedia or just music. And this is the brain-computer interface. This was the world record in terms of the speed of brain-computer interface. Basically, this is a virtual keyboard. Each one of the letters or numbers flash at different rate. So you can use your brain activity to input without keyboard. So this was the rate, I think, 800 milliseconds per letter. So it translates into 75 letters per minute. That was a world record. And over the past 30 years, this technology has been around for 30 years. People have been struggling trying to find the real-world application. Because, people are talking about, hey, this one can be used, technology can be used by lock-in patients. They have no motor control. But not many of them, fortunately. Okay? So you're not going to use it because you type much faster than 75 letters per minute. So we actually developed probably the first in the field of BCI. They consider this is probably one of the first real-world applications. We actually coded this SZP, and then we present to the subject, and we're trying to see the visual field loss in, for instance, glaucoma patients. Okay, so the idea is this is my cell phone. Okay, and you can see each sector is actually flash at different rate. We put it into the VR goggle, and we integrate the EEG sensors and all electronics, so we can detect your EEG activity when you put on this goggle. You're going to see that in an hour. And then we assume that all the stimulating frequencies will create a peaks in your spectrums of the brain activity. But if there's 12, or if there's a huge variation in certain frequency, which means the corresponding spatial areas, your sensitivity of your visual field is impacted. So that's what we can actually detect glaucoma. This, again, has been commercialized, and I co-founded a company called N-Goggle in 2016. So we're trying to see how we can actually help people with visual field damage or loss, and to detect that and to monitor the progressions of medication. Okay, sorry, I run out of my time. And if you have any questions or you're interested in how to bring the neuroscience research to real environment, please come to talk to me. Thank you.